Oh, pardon me. I'm just making a list. I am. Just a few more things, and well, I've got a blanket, and popcorn. I'm bringing my own popcorn because it's quite expensive if you get it there. Some drinks. Now, when I say I'm bringing drinks, I mean a Pepsi or a Sprite. Maybe I'll bring a mom and dad drink in there too. I'm going to put it in a cooler. That's right, a cooler to keep it cool inside my hot car. I'm going to bring some candy once again because I'm frugal when I go there. I'm bringing some bug spray, yes, because a bug might get in my car. Bringing some hand sanitizer because you never know what I'm going to touch. I'm going to bring some napkins in case I spill something. I don't want to make a mess, and I'm going to bring some money, just in case I want to run out to the snack bar if I've forgotten anything on my list. I'm going to the drive-in, and I know what I forgot. I'm going to bring you. Welcome to the show, darling. Welcome.
If you're stuck inside and you need some fun, she's the grande dame of getting it done. With Victoria Sautee.
And hello there, everyone. We're going to the drive-in movies today. Isn't that exciting? Has anyone ever been to the drive-in? There it is there. The drive-in. It's an outdoor movie theater where patrons can view the movie from their car on the comfort of their car. Look at them all there watching Charlton Heston part the Red Seas in that movie. Oh, when I think of the drive-in, darling, I always think of my favorite drive-in movie scene. Yes, it's Sandy and Danny in the movie Grease. Little does she know she's about to have a bad scene there with Danny, and Danny will try to give the ring and expect things, and he'll end up singing in front of a screen. He will. I love the drive-in. Now, the drive-in has a rich history. It does. It all started in New Mexico in 1915, and that picture that you see right there, that's the Theater de Guadalupe in New Mexico. It was the very first drive-in. You see the screen there? It sort of looks like the Alamo, doesn't it? And the drive-in movie was created by this gentleman here. This is Richard Hollingshead. Richard Hollingshead, he patented the drive-in movie 20 years after that Theater de Guadalupe opened. That's right. It was he who, in 1932, started the whole drive-in movie. He patented the drive-in movie. Look at him there. Look at Mr. Hollingshead. He looks like the type would frequent a drive-in movie, doesn't he? He loved cars. He actually worked as an auto parts specialist. He did. I can see that looking at him too. And he's quoted saying, "The whole family is welcome at a drive-in, no matter how noisy the children are." But he has a Dick and a Jane himself there who make quite a mess. Well, the next drive-in movie to come about after he patented the drive-in movie scene was this one, Shankweiler's Drive-In. That's right, Shankweiler's Auto Park in Orfield, Pennsylvania. Shankweiler's. It sounds like something you get and you need to see a doctor. "Oh, doctor, I've got a Shankweiler on my wrist here. You need to have it removed." But no, it was a drive-in movie. And by the 1940s, drive-ins started to spring up everywhere. Here's one now. Oh, look at that merry little drive-in there. They really took off. And by 1947, the number of drive-in movies in this country went from 155 to 4,151. They were all over the place. There we look at this lovely little marquee there, the Transit Drive-In Theater, because you're in a mode of transportation when you go there. And here's another lovely one. This is the Saco Drive-In movie in Saco, Maine. And I've actually sat in a car in that drive-in. I have. And here's another one. This was one of my favorite drive-ins when I was little. It is in Mendon, Massachusetts, and there it is. You would drive right in there, and I was quite a personality even back then. They would let me in for free. They did. Oh, that, unfortunately, there's a little decline in the whole drive-in scene now happened in the 1970s. People had their TVs and their cable and their VCRs and their HBOs, and they just stopped going to the drive-in. And it was poorly attended, and certain drive-ins started to have flea markets, where you could purchase things. No, I don't want you in there. I just want me. Where you could purchase things, and yes, it's a shame. It really is. Every drive-in had a lovely concession stand, though. Here's one here. Look at that. But you don't want to eat from that concession stand, darling. No, just like a movie theater, they had popcorn and candy and soda, but they always had some other food like pizza. The world's worst pizza comes from a drive-in movie. And hot dogs, they had hot dogs aplenty. Look at that. Look at that little wiener ready to anxiously jump into that bun. Yes, but you don't want to eat them. You don't know how long they've been there, darling. Look at that little hot dog. You certainly don't want to have any of him. That little Janie or Judy there, or whatever that thing is in the corner, looks very excited about that hot dog, but don't eat it, Judy or Jane or Timmy or whatever you are. Now, when you go to the drive-in, there'd be a big screen, as you know. That's where you'd see the movie. How would you hear it? You'd hear the movie on these little speaker systems. Oh, there's one now. There it is. Yeah. You see, you'd put one of these in each your car window, so there'd be a left car and a right car. And let's see if I can show you how that is better. There it is. You'd stick that in your window, and the window would have to be partially open, and that's why you want to bring bug spray when you go to the drive-in movie, because a bug will come in, a moth will really ruin your night at the drive-in. And you'd have those, and you'd have a little thing there. You could turn it up or turn it down. Now, I think in modern days, you go to the drive-in and you hear the music on the dialogue on the radio. Who's out there today? Let's see. Oh, there's John here. Good morning. Good hello, Mr. John Strano. And oh, yes, you go, girl, says Michael. And his Emma's out there, and she's been to the drive-in. Really, she didn't get stranded at the drive-in. So steeped in grease. She is steeped in grease. Suzanne loves the drive-in, but who watched the movie? Oh, Suzanne, you naughty girl. Yeah, you are a naughty girl, Suzanne. So let's see. I have to show you here. Oh, yes. Now, this drive-ins started to sort of develop, and here's one of them. I want to show you this one. This is an ad for the all-weather drive-in. Now, the all-weather drive-in, you could sit in your car, or you could go into a theater. So if it was raining, you didn't want to put the wipers on during the show, you could go right into the theater. And here's a drive-in here. This is in Asbury Park, New Jersey. You see it says fly-in drive-in, because you could actually, if you had a small plane, you could fly into the back of the drive-in and watch your movie right there from your plane. Here's a lovely drive-in on the border of Massachusetts and New Hampshire, the Northwood Drive-In, where half of the drive-in is in Massachusetts and the other half is in New Hampshire. And the concession stand is right in the middle. So you go into the Massachusetts side and you come out with your terrible hot dog in New Hampshire. Isn't that something? Here's one in Fort Lauderdale. Now this one has 14 screens, 14 different movies play there, and it's open all day. And you can go shopping in the stores during the day and see your movie there at night. It's called the Swap Shop. So Suzanne, I know you're down there in Florida. Maybe you'll go over there to the Swap Shop and get your fix of 14 different movies. Now Here's a screen that many of you locals might know. This is the Milford Drive-In. It had two screens, the red screen and the blue screen, and that's right there in Milford, Connecticut. Your local crowd might remember seeing this on Cherry Street. Now, here's what it looks like now. You see this Cherry Street in the corner. I've marked it with some little words, and you can see where the ShopRite and the Starbucks are, and that was the drive-in. Fortunately, but at least we've got a shop right there now, and we get a Starbucks. I think of it every time I go there. I do. It's lovely. I love the drive-in movie. You know, in the days we live in now, they're making a comeback. Don't be surprised if you don't see some drive-in movies or movies being projected on the sides of large buildings this very summer. That's right. Now, Catherine's here watching us, and she's my sister. Used to help run the one in Bridgeton, Maine, until a few years ago, and they got fresh hot dogs. Well, good for them, Catherine. I'll bet they did. Where's my Poughkeepsie peeps who's been to the Overlook? I've never been to the Overlook. I'll have to check that out next time I'm in Poughkeepsie. Shelley says that the Mansfield one opens on May 20th, and that's wonderful. There's Michael. See you there, go Po Town. Now, what do these drive-in movies play? They play movies, of course, but they play a particular kind of movie. That's right, a particular kind. And to tell us all about the kind of movies we might see when we go to the drive-in, let's bring on our B-Movieologist, Mr. Dazzle. Hello, Mr. Dazzle.
Hi, Victoria.
How are you today?
Oh, I'm great. I'm very good, thank you.
Wonderful. I like your glittery background. It is very dazzling, is it not?
Of course. Well, everything in the room has to be made of sequins, otherwise you're not allowed. So.
Well, that's the kind of room I live in. It's the same here in the glittery bunker, darling. Now, I'm going to go away for a minute, and I'd like you to tell our audience all about the kind of movies they might see if they go to the drive-in.
Sure. Yeah. So back in the days of the drive-in, the heyday of the drive-in, there were a specific kind of movie really came to the surface. It was the B movie, and it was typically a movie with a very low budget that they made quickly, and it was science fiction or horror or fantasy, some sort of schlocky sort of story. A lot of them, especially in the 50s, were about one of two things. Either there was a giant monster created by radioactive material, or Martians were coming to destroy the Earth. So a lot of movies sort of focused around those two things. And of course, I happen to be a B-Movieologist, so I have a top 10 countdown of movies from the 50s into the 60s that fall on these lines. So let's start talking about movies. Number 10. The Robot Monster. Yes. Moon monsters launch attack against Earth. The Robot Monster is a B movie from 1953. It is the most baffling design of a monster I've ever seen. The gentleman on the poster here, it's a gorilla suit with a Martian helmet, and that is how he looks in the movie, minus the skull. And the story focuses on him trying to destroy all of mankind, but he falls in love with one of the human girls and can't bring himself to finish it. The interesting part about this movie, actually, is that it was filmed mostly around an area called Bronson Canyon, which is in Los Angeles. It's a very famous place to film movies, actually. Among them are the Cyclops, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, a lot of stuff from that era, but also a lot of television. All of the Star Trek series were filmed there in some way or other. The opening of Branson Cave is actually the Bat Cave from the 1960s. The Power Rangers were there. The Monkees were there. Every TV show has been to Bronson Canyon. Moving on, though. Number 9 on my list is Plan 9 from Outer Space. This movie is on many lists of the worst movies of all time. It's been deemed the worst movie of all time by a lot of critics. It's by a gentleman named Ed Wood, who would later go on to do even worse movies. And it is about Martians coming to Earth, and they plan to destroy us by resurrecting zombies and vampires to take us out. It's for free if you want to watch it on YouTube. It's surprisingly not as exciting as you'd think, but that's Plan 9 from Outer Space. Grade A masterpiece. Number 8 on my list, it's actually 2 movies. So back when they used to do these in the 50s, they used to do a film, and just before the film there'd be a short. Like when you go to see a Pixar movie and there's that little bit in the beginning that's like, I'm a volcano, I love you. Back in the 50s, they used to do shorts, and eventually they turned it into an entire movie. So you would go and see 2 movies for the price of 1. It's called a double bill. So The Blob, which is the more famous of these 2, was double billed with I Married a Monster from Outer Space. I don't know much about the Married a Monster movie, but The Blob is one of the ones that I saw when I was very young. It's basically about a ball of silly putty from space that tries to eat everybody, but it had an amazing theme song. So groovy. All right. Moving right along, we have number 7, Them. Them is a movie about radioactive isotopes that latch onto ants in the Arizona desert. And the ants grow enormously big, and they try to destroy people, and people try to destroy them back. It's a great giant monster movie. If you love that sort of thing, I think it's very funny. But one of the even more funny things about it is that it stars Edmund Gwenn, who is known for playing Santa Claus in Miracle on 34th Street. I like to picture Santa Claus being the one to attack the ants. I think that's very funny. Number 6 on my list, Attack of the 50-Foot Woman. This movie is about a woman who comes into contact with a giant alien, and he makes her grow to 50 feet tall. And her biggest problem in the movie is that her boyfriend wants to break up with her. So it is exactly what you expect. It's just a giant woman destroying buildings and a man who doesn't know how to break up with his girlfriend. Very, very funny. Very, very good. In the bad way. Number 5 is Santa Claus. Santa Claus Conquers the Martians. Not that Santa Claus. This Santa Claus. Santa Claus Conquers the Martians is kind of on the cusp. It's actually a comedy movie from the 60s. 1964, actually. And it's about Martians. Again, we love Martians. It's about Martians who want to make their kids happier because their children are all fed information through their brains and none of them are happy. So they kidnap Santa Claus from Earth to make him make toys for their children. It basically follows 3 Martians, Santa Claus, and 2 human children inside a warehouse on Mars. And it's funny, but only because it's really bad. I recommend it around Christmas time if you want a good laugh. On my list, let's see. Oh, number 4. Number 4 now, House of Wax. We're getting into the true horror. And this stuff is actually starting to get pretty good. So there's an actor named Vincent Price, and he is amazing. He can overact anything. I love Vincent Price. And he was in this movie called House of Wax about an artist who makes wax figures, but his hands get burned. So then he decides to dip real people in wax. This is actually a remake of a movie from the 30s. And of course, they changed it around to make it a little more creepy. But one of the more interesting things about it is that at the time they were experimenting with making 3D movies in color. So this is one of the first color 3D features. This is actually a scene from it where a gentleman in the street is playing paddleball and the ball keeps going at the camera like this. So they added a lot of gimmicks into the movie to make the 3D exciting, but the rest of the movie is actually quite good. I recommend it. Number 3 on our list, Creature from the Black Lagoon. Now, Universal Studios back in the 30s even, 30s, 40s, 50s, all that era, they were remaking all classic horror novels into movies. Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Wolfman, The Hunchback of Notre Dame, Phantom of the Opera, Invisible Man, and they came up with this, The Creature from the Black Lagoon, which is the only one that is entirely original. The creature, interestingly enough, was created by a woman named Millicent Patrick. She was a Disney animator at the time. She designed 4 of the 8 features in Fantasia. She worked on Dumbo. But later on into the 50s, she designed the Gillman, the creature who lives in the swamp, who attacks people. And not many people know it because she's not billed, but she is a true monster hero. Moving along to number 2, Forbidden Planet. This movie is very highly acclaimed, and I'm not sure if it's as good as people remember, but it stars a very young Leslie Nielsen and a very old Walter Pidgeon and Anne Francis, as well as the robot. Oh, of course, this side. The robot. And the robot actually gets billed as the robot in the credits. It's sort of a space mystery, this one. It's really about people traveling to a planet where they've lost signal and they find these 2 people living there and what happened to everybody else. It's got a really high production value considering its era. It's colorized, it's pretty. I like it. Put it on the background of a party. And of course, number 1 on my list, and this one is a big one. It is The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms is based on a short story about a lizard that comes from the bottom of the ocean and attacks a city. And actually, in the story, it attacks a lighthouse, but this is a movie, and you're at the drive-in, so it's got to be a whole city. The Beast was animated by a gentleman named Ray Harryhausen, who did work on, oh, there he is. He did work on Mighty Joe Young and Sinbad, and he did the stop motion skeletons. He liked stop motion animation, where you take a figure and you move it a little bit and you take a picture, and you move it a little bit and you take a picture. So it has this sort of creepy animated look, but it's a real model. He was a genius, and it took him hours and hours of time to recut all the footage that he wanted. Crumbling buildings he animated, frame by frame, inch by inch. But this movie actually inspired a lot of modern directors to make their greatest works. Godzilla is actually a product of this. Some creators in Japan saw it and thought, this is brilliant. Guillermo del Toro loved it. Steven Spielberg loved it. Everybody loved this movie. And for its time, it is a brilliant piece of movie making, simply because they had so many limitations, and yet they made this monster look pretty scary. I really enjoyed it. I enjoyed all of these movies, good and bad. The drive-in was all about having a good time. Sometimes you'd see two movies instead of one, and they'd both be bad, but you'd be laughing and eating a terrible hot dog. And that's kind of the best time ever. So I'm glad you could come on this journey with me. Oh, hi, Victoria, you're back.
Oh, yes. What an entertaining little vision through the movies. I loved every minute of it. I'm going to run out to my drive-in and catch them all.
Sure. Well, a lot of them are available on YouTube for free because they're in the public domain now. So take a look. They're really not that scary by today's standards. So.
Well, thank you, Mr. Dazzle, for all your insight. We'll see you soon.
Pleasure.
Bye now. We'll be back with more Let's Learn stuff in just a moment.
My sister likes it. My older brother likes it. Mommy and Daddy like it. And I like it. It's not pizza. It's Pantochino Podcast. Ridiculously entertaining mini musicals for everyone. Listen now on Spotify and Apple Podcasts.
Wonderful. If you haven't been listening to the podcast, I suggest you do the Little Red Riding Boots that's out there now. It's quite entertaining, if I do say so myself. Well, just speaking of drive-ins, you'll never guess what I came across. I came across a book called Dick and Jane at the Drive-In Movie Fiasco. Shall we have a read? Yes, Dick and Jane and the Drive-In Movie Fiasco. Here's the first page. Here it is. Jane disturbed mother while she was knitting a plaid blanket. Rude, Jane, rude. Can we go to the drive-in, Mother? Jane asked, while wearing an uncharacteristically yellow dress. Mother put on an apron and called the nearby drive-in movie while Sally wore the yellow dress Jane just had on. The movie that was on that night was Dracula. Creepy Dracula. Creepy. Jane loved creepy things. Of course she did. Weird, Jane. Weird. Sally found a box of chocolate cupcakes and showed them to Spot. Salivate, Spot. Salivate. Yes. Sally told Jane Spot was coming to the drive-in movie, but Jane, now wearing a flower print dress, said Spot was not invited. Cry, Sally, cry. Mother and Father and Dick and Jane and Sally got in the car, but Spot was not allowed to go because Jane said so. Yeah, said Jane to Spot. Yeah. And off they went to the drive-in movie. Mother and Father picked up Grandma and brought them along to the drive-in movie, even though the car was already full. Full car, full. That's right. But silly Father ran out of gas. Jane took it personally. Bad, Father, bad. Also, why did you go out of the way to pick up Grandma and Grandpa? But the gas station was sold out of gas. so the family had to pull over and stay at a nearby farm. The farm lady made the children pick corn in the hot field while a bird flew over Jane's head, and Jane changed into a green corn-picking dress. Pick, Jane, pick! Just then, out of the cornfield came Dracula. I'm going to bite you, said Dracula. Run, Jane, run, said Dick. This is all your fault, said Jane. The end. It's a real story, it is. Now, before we go, I have one more little treat for you. I think you're all going to love our next little segment. That's right, it's the match game, my version. It's the drive-in movie match game. I'm going to give you a drive-in movie title, and it's up to you to give me your suggestions as to what might match with me. And the winner is going to get one of our lovely, very rare Victoria Sautee refrigerator magnets. You could magnetize it any way you like. I think you're all ready for this. I hope you got your minds in tune to me. See if you can match what I wrote. Here comes the first one. Don't go in the blank. Don't go in the blank. I'm going to write my answer down. All right. Everybody's ready. Don't go in the bathroom, Shelley said. Don't go in the pool. Don't go in the glittery bunker. Don't go in the basement. I've actually seen that one. The basement, the shower. Oh, you have to go in the shower. The glittery bunker, the cornfield, very good. And I don't know that anyone's going to guess my answer. Oh, no. Well, my answer is don't go in the Walmart. I've seen that more times this week. Don't go in the Walmart. Unfortunately, I don't think anyone. Let me check back there. No, but don't go in the house, Tut says. The grocery store. Well, that's quite close, Emma, but, close is only close, darling. I'm sorry. Let's do another one, shall we? Here we go. Again, these are based on drive-in movie titles. I was a teenage blank. I was a teenage blank. I'll write my answer down. Love this music. I was a teenage dirtbag. I didn't write that down. Superstar. Well, Shelley, I was a teenage superstar. A lobbyist. Yes. A werewolf. Yes, well, that was the actual movie. What would I say? Werewolf. Zach says drag queen. But it wasn't until my early 20s, Zach. I spent my teenage years dressed as a boy. I did. Shelley says, prodigy. Run away. Pantochino Productions says sensation. No, we're talking, Emma, but it's not a match. I'm sorry. My answer to the question, I was a teenage Jane. Yes, I was the Jane. I'm not really Jane. She is. But that was my answer to that one. Shall we do another one? All right. A nerd. Well, Emma just said a nerd. That's the same thing. I think Jane's a nerd. All right, here's the next one. Let's get the music going. Blanket Babylon. It's actually hard to say. Blanket bingo. What? Blanket bingo. There you go. I said it. I think there was a movie called Beach Blanket Bingo. So don't go writing Beach Blanket Bingo because that would be an answer. right. Let me see what you wrote, lovies. What do we have here? Blanket. Bingo. Barbara, you wrote the beach blanket. That's the real one. Wet blanket. Yes, that's pretty good. I like that one. Wet blanket. I wish I thought of that. Beach. Cheryl said beach. Baby blanket. Yes. Picnic blanket. Bingo. Plaid. Yes, I said electric blanket. Bingo. Because I like the electric blanket. I use it in the summertime. I'm always cold. I am. Who else had some glitter? Oh, glittery. Yes. Wool. Maybe. Okay. All right. We're running out of time here, but I'll do one more because I know you love it. Actually, the thing is, I love it. I do. All right, here we go. Let me get the music cranked up. All right, here we go. Attack of the blank monsters. Attack of the blank monsters. I'm going to write my answer down right now. Where's that music? Attack of the blank. Oh. Turkey. Attack of the turkey monsters. No. Attack of the fabulous. The ugly. The 50-foot. The Painter Street Monster. The Painter Street Monster is just across the street from the glittery bunker, Suzanne. Gila Monster. The Space Monster. Oh, nobody got this one. I went easy on you. Little monsters. That's so cute. Monkey monsters. No, Cheryl, monkeys are not monsters. They're your best friend. Ask me. Glitter. Oh, I really wanted to give away my little magnet. We have accessory little monsters. Oh, all right. I'm afraid no one got it. I wrote Attack of the Loch Ness Monsters, as though there were more than one of them. Now we have some more. Oh, the Cookie Monster, the Jane Monster, the Lady Gaga Monster. I don't know. Is she a monster? She might be. Well, I want to thank you all for tuning in today. I want you to stay safe. I want you to wash your hands. If you go outside, put a face covering on, for heaven's sakes. Be kind to each other. Be very kind to each other. We're all we have. Ladies and gentlemen, I'll see you next week. I can't wait. I have a brand new show coming up. Have a great weekend, lovies!
If you're stuck inside and you need some fun, she's the grande dame of getting it done. With Victoria Sautee.
You think there'd be a button you could just press, but you press it, nothing happens. You have to press another button.